Hi there, this is Brenda with Keenan Kreations, and I have a birthday card for you using the new Irresistibly Yours paper from the Sale-a-bration catalog. To get started, we're going to use some of the Irresistibly Yours Designer Series paper, and this is in the Sale-a-bration catalog. So if I tilt it in the light, you can see the embossed designs on the paper. If you look in the Sale-a-bration catalog, you'll find that on page 15. And the way that Sale-a-bration works is for every $50 in product ordered, you get to pick a free Sale-a-bration item from this catalog. So as long as it says free, that's one of your choices. We're going to use the Flower Patch stamp set. And I'm going to work with the polka dot embossed paper. Our first color is Pumpkin Pie. Tap, tap on the ink pad. And we're just going to randomly stamp these flowers. And so with the photopolymer, just make sure you press nice and firmly. And then lift that up. And we're just going to repeat that a few more times. And just a little bit in this corner. Our next color is Cherry Cobbler. And we're just going to fill in this open area with a smaller flower image. So when you have an embossed image and you're stamping directly on top of that, the ink that's on the embossed image doesn't dry. So we want to remove some of that excess ink before we start sponging the background. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can turn your cardstock over and simply press it. Just rub it to remove some of that excess ink, and you'll see how it transfers here. But you can also take a clean tissue and gently wipe that off. And I'm trying to wipe in a little bit of a contained area. I'm not going like this because I don't want that cherry cobbler ink to smear outside. So some of the ink will go outside of the lines, but with the sponging, you're going to be fine. You just want to get most of that ink off. I've used Cherry Cobbler, Pumpkin Pie, and I want to use So Saffron for the background. Whenever you're sponging the background, you want to make sure whatever color you choose is lighter than these other two colors, and that they also work together if they overlap a little bit. We're going to use a stamping sponge, and you're going to grip it like this, so this is nice and round. And instead of going across the ink pad this way, if I go that way, this part here is going to get turned under and you're going to get ink right here, which is going to transfer to your fingers. So hold it like this and go this way. So you want to rub it across the ink pad to get it nice and loaded up with ink. If you pat it on the ink pad, you won't get as much ink. So just rub that out. You can start in the center of your flower and you're going to go in a circular motion. Now once I start going outside of the flower, you'll see these little polka dots in the background start coming forward. And we're just going to repeat this sponging all over this cardstock. When you're sponging a background like this, you also want to make sure that your ink pad is nice and juicy to give you as much ink as possible on your sponge. Otherwise, you'll just have to go back to your ink pad more often. Now I wanted to show you, if you look closely, you can see where a little bit of that cherry cobbler ink has bled outside the lines, but it's a very soft coloring and I think it still looks nice for this project. We're going to add Cherry Cobbler seam binding, and I want my ribbon to go around this way, but when I tie my bow, I'm going to do it this way, and it'll save me a little bit of ribbon. So I'm just going to wrap it around here, cross over. Now I use my middle finger to hold the middle while I'm getting this loop together, and then I'm switching middle fingers here. And then this middle finger went back to hold that center. Oh, I can't find my ribbon. Okay, so when I tie the ribbon, I just want to get it tied and then I can kind of fuss with it. So if you place your finger inside this loop and then tug this piece, it tends to go a little easier. Otherwise, if you just pull this, it just makes the whole thing loose. So get your finger inside the loop and then you can start tugging that. And then we're going to tighten it one more time. So fingers inside the loop and just give that a nice tug. So once you get your bow where it looks nice and pretty, we're going to slide this off. And I know that it's going to go probably about here. So I want this to wrap around the back. So I'm going to cut the ribbon right about here. And then now I can cut these little tails. We're going to add adhesive around all the edges. And my bow is going to be right here along the bottom. So I'm going to take this edge and tuck it around the back. And it's going to adhere to that adhesive. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And I still like to add a little bit of tape on the ends just to make sure nothing comes undone. I've got cherry cobbler cardstock, 8.5 by 5.5, and scored down the middle at 4 1/4. And we're going to layer this right to the front. I've already stamped this greeting from Apothecary Art, and it was die cut with this framelit from the gift card Framelits and Dies. Now I like to use the edge of the dimensionals for these long skinny greetings. I'm going to add this tiny one right here on the end. And I'm going to line up the greeting to the side of the stamped and embossed layer. So I'm just going to get that where I want it. And then just make sure that you're nice and straight. And the last thing we're going to do is add this little butterfly to the front of the card. And these are the new butterfly Thinlit dies. And this one is the medium size. There's also a larger one. And then there's this smaller one that coordinates with the stamp set. When you're die cutting with these detailed Thinlits, what you want to do is have your cardstock, have some wax paper, and then place the Thinlit on top, have your cutting pad on the bottom, cutting pad on top, and run that through the Big Shot on your multi-purpose platform or the magnetic platform. And then it'll release easily and you can pop out all these little things by just pushing them through with a toothpick or a pokey tool. We're going to add glue dots to the center of this butterfly. I'm just going to press one and find a second one. And I like to kind of bend the wings just gently. And we're going to place it just like that. Now I've already stamped the inside of the card. The inside piece is cut 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I did the envelope as well. So I wanted to point out this part of the image didn't ink up completely, but I'm going to show you how to touch that up using the blender pen. You're going to go back to pumpkin pie ink. You're going to grab your blender pen. The blender pens are dual tipped. And you're going to lightly tap it to the ink pad. And you can go on your scratch paper to check it to make sure it's not going to be too dark. And then you're going to kind of pat the ink onto that area that didn't get inked up. So just lightly pat it. And the ink will dry slightly lighter. So if it looks a little dark when you first put it on, that's okay. It won't be perfect, but it'll be better than it was. So it's just an easy way to touch up mistakes. So I hope you enjoyed today's project. For more ideas, you can visit me at KeenanCreations.com. Thanks and have a great day.